Hello, everyone, and welcome to the stream in which I am overwhelmed by the seriousness of the thing I undertook 5 years ago and have been doing since. It is the 2nd of December. Happy Christmas period. There is a Christmas tree behind me. It's tiny. You can't quite see it. It's just there. It is about 2 here in the UK. I know I scheduled us for 3 o'clock, but to be honest, I'm ready to do the work now so that it's done. And I'm getting stressed and anxious, and I think I'm the kind of stressed and anxious where we do the thing and then it will be less stressy and less anxiousy. Yeah, I've been out today. The reason we're later today is I had to go get another blood test. But I am delighted to report that by some miracle, I got stuck on the first try. The blood came out of my body on the first attempt. So that was wonderful, and also it wasn't raining, so that's great. So I got that and some other tasks, chores. There's a word, errands. That's the word I'm looking for. I got some other errands done, and now I have arrived home to an email. So, for those who don't know how a PhD works here in the UK, you have a period of time where you are working on your PhD, and then you are judged as to whether you are ready to submit the text of your PhD. Once you have submitted the text of your PhD, you then have a viva, which is the spoken, final exam where you have to defend your thesis. And again, thesis here is equivalent to dissertation in the US. I don't know what Australia uses, actually. And obviously in Europe they probably call it something completely different, because dissertation, I don't know. Yes, I have been doing this now for 5 years, and in April next year, I hit my minimum period of registration. Now, for a full-time person, that would be 3 years. For a part-time person, that is 5 years. I will just read you this email because I need to emotionally process it. I'm doing that live. So, I hope you're well. I'm writing to outline the process as you approach the end of your minimum period of registration. A progression review meeting will be scheduled to take place 3 months before the end of your minimum period of registration, which will be chaired by the school director of graduate research studies and will include you and your supervisors. So that will be January. I thought I had until April before this stuff happened. Okay. The main purpose of this meeting will be to ensure that your research project is on track and that you have all the necessary support and resources in place to successfully complete it. It is also an opportunity to agree a time frame for the submission of your thesis, and also to consider and discuss potential examiners. So that's having the external examiner that I've talked about a bit before, of picking someone who will have, for me, ideally someone who knows stuff about MAD studies or disability studies or similar. Then I have a form that I have to do. This is the form I have to do for every end of year review. So I've done it several times. Has to be provided to them at least 1 week ahead. My supervision meeting records are all up to date anyway, so that's not a problem. So here we go. This is the scary bit. At the submission review, end of minimum period of registration review meeting, it used to be called the submission review, but you don't actually submit here. So they've changed it to end of MPR because that's clearer. The review panel will consider your process, and following discussion with you, they will make one of the following recommendations. 1, I'm not this one. That the candidate has made good progress and will be in a position to submit at the end of the minimum period of registration. So that would be, my thesis is ready to submit in April 2026. It's not. It will be ready to submit in April 2027 when my actual submission deadline is. That the researcher has made sufficient progress to proceed to writing up within the continuation year of registration. Now, the term writing up is weird when you are doing a humanities degree, because although I did do some like studies and stuff, essentially a humanities thesis is one giant literature review, combined with then just writing up. So I've been writing up in that sense for 5 years. So it's a weird name, but it's the name that we have. I think of writing up as like the editing of my chapters, making sure everything works through, like doing the introduction and conclusion, which are going to be like not full chapters by any means. You know, so yeah, I may be this one. This is the one I'm hoping to get, I think. So this recommendation should only be made when a researcher A is only making use of the university's general facilities, B will no longer be using laboratories or other specialist facilities, and C will only be receiving advice related to the finalisation of their research and thesis. The candidate will qualify for a lower rate of fee. That's the one I'm hoping for, because that's where I think I am. But we'll see. I might be a bit behind because I haven't finished my final sufficient progress. Then 3 is the candidate is making satisfactory progress and is in receipt of funding that extends their eligibility for full supervision. I'm not that one because I don't have any funding. I mean, I do because of all of you, but I don't, like, from an official having funding standpoint, I don't have funding. The candidate has made insufficient progress to proceed to the writing up category of registration and should have their period of supervised research and training extended for a set period, during which time the student should be charged full fees. This period should be between 1 and 12 months only. I would rather not get that one, but if I get that one, I will be okay with it. Obviously, there will be money to think about, but if it's just that I need another 6 months or a year, I'd be okay with that. The remaining 3 are the ones we don't want. That the candidate transfer their registration to the award of MPhil. That the candidate transfer their registration to the award of MA. That the candidate should withdraw from the university. We do not want these. I want a PhD. I've already got an MA. I don't need a second one. In fact, I've almost got 2. We do not want these. We do not want these. But I do think if we take the anxiety brain and put the anxiety brain aside for the moment, I have written 3 of the 4 main chapters of my thesis. I am currently writing the 4th one, having done all of the research. Or at least, we're going to be today. That's what we're going to be doing. That's what I'm going to be doing today. I know what my introduction is going to contain, because I have, like, the key arguments. I've done the, reading for it. That one is pretty much a case of writing it up, and the same, really, with the conclusion. I've edited one of my other chapters twice already, and then I think they're in okay shape. Like, I don't think it will need months and months of editing and rewriting. I'm so scared. Like, the realization that I'm required to do exams is setting in. I should say I can, yeah, it is okay to be scared. It is. I'm doing a terrifying thing. I'm getting a fucking PhD. That's pretty scary. Thank you, child. I love you. And yeah, I think the thing that is scaring me. Oh no, I might cry. Hold on. I don't want to cry. I think the thing that is scaring me is that I genuinely thought this was not happening until April. And so it's that the autistic, a thing has arisen. unexpectedly. I'll start. Okay. So yeah, I think that's a lot of what it is that I thought it was in April. I didn't realize it was 3 months before. Which I don't know if that's a recent change. I don't know if that's changed with the renaming of it. I think it's probably just that in the dozens of pages of like the specification of a PhD, I just missed the words 3 months before, which is permitted. It's also scary because then I have to think about what happens after my PhD, which is tethered to a few things. Obviously, after my PhD, I need to do something with it. I want to do something with it. That's quite intimidating. My ideal is that I get to go do a postdoc, and then get into research somewhere. That means getting what is essentially an actual job, which is a thing that this is the closest. Maybe Listernia was closer to an actual job. This is the other closest to an actual job, which is also terrifying. Yes, especially at the moment in the current academic job market, and lack of funding for specifically my corner of research, or not just my corner, but like all of the humanities. That's very scary. Other scary things. My marital allowance is tied in terms of how long it lasts to the end of my PhD. It goes until 1 year after I am awarded my PhD, or I complete. I need to check the actual wording in my consent order. That's also scary. I will, though, in that point, get the lump sum that I'm also entitled to will come around that time as well, which is sort of good, except that it's also scary because that will render me ineligible for means-tested benefits. So I will, there's financial considerations that I have to make around that time as well. And I think I've had this past week, I have, and anyone who's watched will have seen, I have wonderful, wonderful friends who are my family, my queer chaos family, and I love them very much. But I am also very alone at the same time in my, my meat space, and I think I felt that a bunch lately, where I've really been struggling with this fatigue and really needed help with things, and there's no one to whom I can say, I'm so sorry, could you do the washing up today? And I've definitely felt that as well. And anyone who is divorced knows that also comes with complex feelings of, I put myself here. I chose this. And I stand by that decision, but also it's a lot to deal with. So yeah, when I get an email like this out of the blue, it bubbles up quite a lot of things. On top of which, I need to submit for my supervision, which is next week. And currently, I was talking to my mentor. Let me go to Scrivener actually, and I can show you. Okay. So obviously we know I've got a load of research done for this chapter. This is everything I have written up, which is what we did last time. So we've got these are all thesis statements, which is arguments that I intend to make during the chapter. This is what the chapter will be doing, so like the way in which I am making those statements. And then these are just thoughts. Now, if I sent just this to my supervisors, they'd probably be fine with it once I've talked to them and explained where I am and that I am at the point of starting to write it all out. I also did, at the start of this 2-month period, note that I had the 2 peer-reviewed submissions that I had to edit and send in. I'm really scared of not being enough. I'm really scared of not being sufficient. And this is not as much as I wanted it to be. Insufficient plus plus. I am Knuff. God, that's such a good film. I'm not even a film person, and even I think the Barbie film is fantastic. 1 second. Okay, so it's really hard to tell when I'm in this state where I hug back. That's the thing as well, it's like you just sometimes you just want a hug. And I don't have that. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I have this. This is a good overview of what the chapter's going to be. I can also talk to them about the concept of play and how that's more... I just spat on my microphone. More cemented as the theme for the chapter. Don't mind that clank. That's the power cable for my heating pad. The thing I struggle with when I'm in this state is, should I push on and do some of the thing so that I can feel better about it? Or is it better just to let myself rest? But I've done so much resting in the past month. I'm so tired of needing to rest. I'm so afraid of my blood tests coming back and looking normal and then not being able to get the help that I need. It's funny, in mentoring on Monday, yeah, I have it in my brain, but genuinely, there have been points where I've firstly taken hours to get myself here to my desk, and then just sort of sat here and stared at things, and it just doesn't happen in the same way that a lot of the time when I try to sleep, I lie there and it doesn't happen. Dissociation station. Yeah, that's my pain. The bed is my pain nest, and this is my dissociation station. And yeah, like not even feeling, interested in playing games or things like that. And then I've had points where, this weekend I did manage to push and get a bunch of chores done. You wouldn't know it if you looked at my flat right now. You cannot see the degree of chaos that I'm in. Which, to be fair, was partly me when I got up this morning and had to abruptly, pack everything that I needed for my errands and get off to my blood test, and yeah. But I'm, hyper conscious of the ways in which I'm cleaning is Sisyphean. Sorry, I'm jumping around all over the place. I read a post on Blue Sky that said, don't think about Sisyphus pushing the boulder up, think about Sisyphus doing the laundry. Just perpetually doing laundry. It never ends. It's just always laundry. When you think you've done it, the kids come out of their rooms with more laundry. Exactly. On Monday, I was talking to my mentor, and we were talking about how I was doing, and I was saying that I feel like I'm close to max capacity and that I'm very much whelmed. I wasn't at that point quite overwhelmed, but I was very much, towards the upper reaches of that. And I think I may have tipped into overwhelmed today. I do not want to write my thesis right now. I want to cry and eat an entire Terry's chocolate orange and go to bed. I unfortunately need to be sufficient. Crying and sleeping are good. It's not even necessary that I want to sleep, actually. It's just to be lying down. Eating the whole orange bite. That's my secret, Cap. I always have soup poop. That's why I'm going to the doctor. Welcome to TMI with Callie. Here, 20 to 3 on the 2nd of December. All right. That's a good question. I mean, there's always reading that I could be doing that would help. We could be doing reading today. Every fucking time I start another sentence, I feel like I'm gonna cry. Okay, we're gonna look at this a different way. If I would... Hang on, I'm gonna come back to... have my entire crying face. We're gonna look at this a different way. We're gonna go, if I was giving this advice to someone else, what would I tell them? I think I would say that it's okay if it's too much right now. It's okay if it's too much right now. Which it is. It's too much. I've always gotten things done before, and if I have, you know, failed to meet a deadline, then it's never been a problem. It's something that either I've made up for or it's just not been a problem. It is okay if my PhD takes longer. I will manage it even if I need, you know, to find another year of full fees from somewhere. I can do that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. This is the worst dream. This thing I'm doing is very difficult. Existing is very difficult. I haven't showered in 5 days. And I just... That's why I have a hat on, by the way. It's because no one is permitted to see the horror that is my hair. I'm doing very hard things. I'm singing in front of hundreds of people on Saturday. I'm doing very scary things. But the candidate is making sufficient progress. At every single end-of-year review I've ever had, the candidate was making exemplary progress. Every single review. Even when I think I've been lazy and I've not done enough, they've marked me as having made exemplary progress every single year. Through everything that's happened in the past 5 years. It is better than sufficient. My handkerchief fell on the floor. Oh my goodness. Okay. The floor needs a cry too. Guys, I'm not going to do any work today. I'm not going to do any work today. If I'm not going to be sending tons of words, it's okay if I don't send it until Thursday or Friday. It's okay. And the good news is, it's the first week of the month, so I have fucking therapy tomorrow. Oh my goodness. I used to do streams that were just half an hour long, actually, so that is in fact going to happen today. I'm going to leave this up, though, because I'm not embarrassed to be seen being like this. I don't have a desire to stay in this state on a on a stream, but I think it's important for people to know that you can be this much of a mess and still do the thing. You can be sitting in a messy, chaotic space and still be managing to make sufficient progress. You can not quite believe that you can do the things but still do them, and you can think of a future even when you can't quite believe in it. All right. I love you all very much. I'm gonna go cry off camera. Especially because my nose is starting to run, which means we're reaching the ugly crying stage. Please take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you on Thursday for our affiliate anniversary. I don't know what we're doing for it. I'll work it out. Alright. Sorry this is short. I'm not apologising for the emotion, but I will apologise for not being able to do the full stream. I'll see you all soon.